The lift wasn't working and he was in pain, so I tried to lift him on my own. Yes, it's bad. I'll need help.
Can I help you with that?
No, I'm good. Thanks.
Workplace injuries hurt the most at home.
Dear everybody, you'll see thousands of images today. Here are 3 you won't see.
A girl who uses a walker eating ice cream with her friends.
A young woman with a prosthetic leg modeling the latest denim trends.
A kid who uses a wheelchair busting a dance move.
You're influenced by the images you see and the ones you don't. It's time to include disability in the picture. Sign Holland Bloorview's Dear Everybody agreement and help create a world without stigma for kids and youth with disabilities. Visit deareverybody.ca.
Good evening, 007.
Tell me what you know of James Bond.
He'll light the fuse on any explosive situation.
Got your attention.
007 License to Kill.
Is this really what you want? Living in the shadows? Always alone?
I don't stop to think about it.
This is Rogers TV.
And welcome back to Out of the Fog. I'm Melissa Royle Critch, and I'm joined by Laura Winters, who's the Executive Director of the St. John Status of Women Council and the Women's Center. Welcome to the show, Laura.
Hi, thank you for having me.
I know you've been quite busy through the past couple of months, maybe even more busy than usual, which is a lot for your organization. But I want to take you right back to the beginning, when our province declared a health emergency, and you very quickly identified issues around domestic violence, intimate partner violence and abuse as something that could, worsen given the lockdown and all the measures in place. So what caused you concern, I guess, right off the bat?
So right off the bat, we knew that in other jurisdictions that were ahead of us in the crisis and in their pandemic response, that they were seeing increased rates of domestic violence. So we had seen that coming out of China. We had seen it even coming out of other provinces in Canada. And we know that Newfoundland and Labrador has a rate of domestic violence that is higher than the national average to begin with. We know this is an issue that women are facing in the province pre-existing the pandemic, and so we knew that the conditions of being isolated within the home, cut off from support, all of those pieces, the reduction in service and capacity for women to access those services were really going to take a toll, and especially a toll on women experiencing violence.
So what type of measures did you put in place or able to continue services in order to address these concerns?
So immediately we moved all of our services to over the phone. So if there's any women listening who would like to connect with us, our number is 753-0220. You can call Monday to Friday. You can call for any reason that you'd like around support, around finding out about what we offer, what resources are open in the community. And in particular, our counseling program, which is usually a walk-in single session therapy model, has moved to a call-in model. So it's the only women-centered, trauma-informed walk-in counseling program in Canada, and it's now the only call-in one operating from that perspective. So that happens Tuesday 12 to 7 and Wednesday 12 to 5 at that same number, 753-0220. So that's a program that we really want women to know about. And again, you can call for any reason. We do get lots of calls from women who are experiencing domestic violence, but that's a service for all women. If you're working on the front lines in a grocery store and you'd like to connect because you're feeling stressed or whatever the case may be, you can call in to that counseling service. We also made changes to the Safe Harbor Outreach Project, our program for women engaged in the sex industry. They're continuing to do outreach and support. It looks a little different right now, but they're still providing a great deal of services to women. And we also have made changes within our housing program. So we run Marguerite's Place supportive housing, and of course there's lots of safety measures in place there for the women living in our unit.
How important is it for women to know that these resources are still available and are still operating? And I guess, you know, in addition, that there may be kind of new ways or better ways to reach out to them? Because I know I've seen in other jurisdictions that calls to some women's centers and support centers and resources have been down, which, you know, may sound, oh, great, you know, maybe the instances are down, but it's kind of the reverse, and maybe there's some underreporting going on for various reasons.
That's exactly it. And I think when you look at the circumstances around domestic violence and women's capacity to make those calls, it usually would happen when the abuser leaves the home, goes to work perhaps. That's not happening right now. So we know women aren't able to make those calls. We also want to point out the provincial transition houses. So the shelters for women and children fleeing violence are still operating. They have lots of safety measures in place, and we want women to know really about the broad range of resources that are available. So if you call into our number, we can certainly give women that information as well.
And, you know, I think those issues are probably the most pressing and urgent right now, just because of the nature of those issues. But, you know, looking forward to, you know, after we start opening back up, and even, you know, now, the present financial circumstances that women are facing, you know, I've heard that women in some ways are actually more affected by not necessarily the COVID-19 itself, but all of the measures around preventing it. I wonder if you could speak to a little bit, you know, how women are more affected by men by the present circumstances.
Certainly. So we just held a panel actually in collaboration with the Provincial Action Network on the Status of Women, as well as the Gender and Politics Lab at MUN, to look at exactly that. What are the gendered impacts of this pandemic, and how do we move forward in a way that addresses the inequality that was there along the gender lines beforehand? So that included myself, Paula Shepherd-Chabot, and Dr. Amanda Bittner, and it's available on our Facebook page if anyone listening would like to check it out. We did a Facebook Live, and it's still up there. So really we were looking at, again, the pre-existing issues in this province around higher rates of domestic violence, the fact that we have a huge wage gap here. Women are only making 66 cents on the dollar. The fact that women are overrepresented in low wage and minimum wage jobs in this province. They make up 66% of minimum wage workers versus 34% of men. The fact that childcare has been an issue that women face in terms of a barrier to being in the workforce. So when we look at all of those things, there was pre-existing issues. Those have been exacerbated by the pandemic. So for instance, when we look at women in low-wage jobs, some of those jobs may be in grocery stores and food service. Those are the people on the front lines. They're majority women right now. Also, when we look at our healthcare sector, I believe the stats are 87% of our healthcare and health service workers are women. So thinking about that, for instance, the issue of a lack of personal protective equipment is affecting women in a way that they're being more affected because those are the people on that front line. So that's one piece of the puzzle here. And I think what we're trying to put forward is a feminist plan for recovery for this province. And we're not kind of building this, you know, without a template, because Hawaii has interestingly put forward their own feminist recovery plan with many points that are really useful here in this province. A lot of the things that they've suggested are, I think, pieces that we should put in place within our province. So we are lobbying the government for a number of things. First and foremost, we are lobbying for a dedicated line, a crisis line around domestic violence. That line should be available through text, because we just spoke about how it might be difficult for women to make calls. It should be free across the province for women to call. So that's one of the things that we're looking for. We're also looking for a task force on domestic violence moving forward to address these issues. This is something we've been calling for quite a long time from our organization, and we think now is the time. The issue has been exacerbated, and We think that task force should certainly be an all-party committee. There needs to be a dedicated budget. There needs to be a dedicated plan and a really clear plan with tangible goals and outcomes and timelines around when those things will be achieved to reduce domestic violence. Some of the other things that we're calling for is a living wage in this province, something that many groups have been calling for. And again, that impacts women because they're disproportionately in those minimum wage roles. We're calling for a childcare plan, so affordable, accessible, quality childcare. Again, a huge issue facing women, and especially now when we've got children out of school and at home, and we've got women who do the bulk of the caregiving are also trying to work from home. There's a lot of barriers going on right now in terms of childcare. So those are just a couple of the things that we're calling for, but first and foremost, we want our government to engage with women and to especially engage with marginalized women whose voices are not usually heard in these discussions. So we would like the government to look at that, and we certainly can facilitate that. We're connected with lots of women serving organizations. There's already conversations happening at the community level, and the question is now, how do we have government listening to those conversations? So how do we take into account the perspectives of women who are engaged in the sex industry, of women who are Indigenous, women who are differently abled, women who are struggling around mental health, addiction, whatever the case is. Women who have been marginalized prior to this pandemic are worse off right now, and their voices need to be heard in these conversations as to how we move forward.
And understanding that it's early-ish days, I guess, for the provincial government dealing with the pandemic and the issues around it, you know, how do you feel that our provincial government has been addressing these kind of feminist issues or women-based issues so far? I know, at the 2 p.m. press conferences, we've seen a seniors advocate, we've seen a mental health advocate, and we haven't heard a lot yet, I think, from the women's perspective. Obviously there are women involved as policymakers and as our chief medical officer, but would you like to see, I guess, more focused consideration of policy ideas from a feminist perspective, or is that kind of happening behind the scenes? What are you hoping to see here?
I think there's work happening behind the scenes, but I think what we have are Band-Aid solutions to really what are issues of structural inequality. And in order to address those, what we need is you're exactly right, a gender-based analysis. And that can't be like an asterisk at the end of a policy that's developed without that at the center. So we're talking about starting from looking at these issues of inequality, starting from the voices of women and developing policy from there. That's the big shift that we haven't seen. And you're correct, we really haven't seen a gender-based analysis really on anything throughout this pandemic. We've had lots of folks on those daily briefings. We've been asking for domestic violence to be spoken about daily. Really, part of it is about reducing the stigma around experiencing domestic violence, acknowledging that it happens in our society, and letting women know resources and services are out there, they want to help. Those are messages that can be really easily incorporated. We haven't seen that. We haven't seen the provincial hotline around domestic violence. Again, a very easy thing to put in place. Dr. Bittner noted
the line pretty quick.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's exactly what Dr. Bittner noted. That line exists where I think the issue of domestic violence is a little bit more important, in fact, than the kinds of reporting that might be happening through that line right now. So we hope that some of those pieces will get some action on them. And we hope that we'll see, again, a gender-based analysis on this. We haven't been hearing about the fact that the majority of frontline healthcare workers are women, and that the issue of personal protective equipment is impacting women disproportionately. Like, these are pieces that the government should be talking about. And again, I do want to note there is work happening behind the scenes. We're in uncharted waters here, and everyone's working really hard. But I think we need to work smarter. We need to work more collaboratively. And again, we need to start from that gender-based analysis, not have it as an afterthought to pre-existing plans.
Perfect. And then just before we end off, in case anybody missed the start of this, I just wondering if you could reiterate your message about the services that your organization and others provide, and the phone numbers and how people can get in touch if they're looking for help.
Yes, thank you. So again, our number is and that's available Monday to Friday from 8:30 to 4:30. And you can call to find out about other services in the community, just to connect with us, to have support. If you're experiencing domestic violence and you'd like to talk about safety planning, or you'd like to talk about what resources are there in the community, we're there for that Monday to Friday. If you're a woman who'd like to contact our Right Here, Right Now counseling service, and that is available to women and other marginalized genders, as are all of our services, you can call us on Tuesday from 12 to 7 and Wednesday 12 to 5 at that same number, 753-0220. And again, I want to say our counseling is really women-centered. It's about what you want to speak about, what you want to get out of it. It's different from some traditional therapies. So I think we hear therapy and think, oh, it's going to be look a particular way or be a certain thing, and that can be a bit intimidating. But really, this is about having a supportive chat. So that Right Here, Right Now counseling is exactly that. We want to be there when women need it. And again, the SHOP program, you can call 771-1077 or 771-7171 to reach one of our SHOP workers. That's Bridget and Heather, and they are working exclusively with women and people of other marginalized genders who are engaged in the sex industry, and they've been doing a great deal of support. So if you have those lived experiences, please reach out to them.
Thank you. Thanks so much, Laura, and thanks for all the work you're doing during this time. I know it's difficult for everybody, but you're also on the front lines doing a lot of really important advocacy work. So thanks for that, and thanks for making time for us on Out of the Fog today.
Thanks, Melissa. And, I get to come on and be the face, but our staff is the magic behind this organization, and they're working so very hard, as are all staff across the community sector. So shout out to our community partners as well, everyone's working hard, doing phenomenal work and trying to work differently. So thank you for the opportunity to connect today.
Thanks so much.
All right, girls.
Mom, you said it's played again.
Workplace injuries hurt the most at home.
He fell. Whoa, I'm not driving. I'm way too stoned. How are you feeling, Beer?
Oh, since we had that talk, I'm not driving tonight at all.
What about you, Dave?
You only had a couple of drinks.
And only a couple of puffs.
I don't drink and drive. No way I'm getting behind the wheel when I smoked weed, too.
How are we getting home, then?
Oh, you can drive, Dave.
Come on, Dave.
Take one for the team, buddy.
Don't let weed and alcohol influence your decision to drive.
Yeah, I need a ride.
Welcome back to Out of the Fog. I'm here with Ryan Osborne of Oz Coaching. He's the owner and trainer with Oz Coaching, and so welcome so much to the show.
Thanks for having me, Melissa.
So, of course, having a business, especially one that, I would assume has a lot of personal contact in the pre-pandemic era, how has, COVID-19 and the lockdown affected your business, and what have you chosen to do about it?
Like anything, the first, you had to pivot. For me, I've been kind of doing online coaching and even online and digital corporate wellness services as well for, going on 6 years now. So it wasn't a mad shift, but like any, fitness, I did do, and I have in-person clients that I do in their homes. And a couple of gym clients, but so that was kind of really the only shift. They all transitioned to online. Some were doing a hybrid form, but many, like I would probably imagine, some of the viewers, online, even fitness or online coaching might be really new. So like I said, if I was, a trainer in a gym, a setting that is strictly one-to-one, I feel for those people. I got a couple of people that just opened their own gym studio literally just prior to Snowmageddon. So the combination of that and now, that would have been a massive shift. So for me, it was just, how can I've had to adjust things, no question. Certain things, services and whatnot that I do online just to be a little bit more accessible. But I was just like, more people are online, more people using social media. So here's a time to just kind of really put out content that I feel is really useful and valuable, understanding the situation we're in.
And in addition to, I guess, serving your own clients, digitally on a one-on-one or small group basis, you've been doing these public Facebook videos showing exercises you can do at home. So I guess, what are you hoping to, spur in people and get them moving? And what's the idea behind doing these public Facebook groups? And what's the response been?
The response has been good. I've, just like anything, I guess, my Facebook, I guess, business page, Oz Coaching, it's always had a good following. I mean, I cross between a couple of platforms, if you will, but for me, it's just been, I've been doing them fairly frequently prior, usually a couple a week, but really ever since COVID, I've been doing somewhat of a little daily, just a daily miniature motivational message, if you will, covering a variety of things. Just because, like I said, people are home now, whether they're working or whatnot. I just think with fitness, just like I think anything in social media anyways, is so much, misinformation and whatnot. So I needed and felt like, let's just try to make it as practical as possible. So yeah, I've been doing, like I said, workouts, clearly showing some ideas that you can do with absolutely zero equipment using, as some people might have seen, that some of the live workouts that I do, I'm bringing in Barbie dolls and even either, soup cans if you don't have that, or you have like bands, dumbbells, and whatnot. So I think just, trying to promote that message that any movement now really should be kind of the focus, not necessarily nitpicking at the minutia of I need to get this in, or I need to even hit maybe a certain weight thing. It's just move more, get the whole family going. It's great to kind of, depending on obviously the social distances of kids, not necessarily probably being able to move as much as they could because they can't hang out with friends. So yeah, for me, I just sat back really within the first few days of knowing that this was going to be most likely long, to say, how can I contribute? How can I just kind of help and get, some practical ways of people kind of still continuing with their health habits.
And you mentioned the accessibility and the lack of equipment people may have at home. And that's what I found really interesting about your videos, is that, like you say, you do, find ways to incorporate household objects as your weights or your resistance. So I guess, if people are home and thinking, I'd like to be active, but I can't get to the gym, I can't play the team sports I normally play. Is it fair to say that for most people, there are active things you can do in your home to your level, based on things within reach?
I think so. I mean, it's no doubt it's going to be I guess a mentality shift for some, because if you're so used to having equipment, I mean, obviously running, you can still run outside and go on bikes. And now specifically, there's a little bit level 4 today. Yay. But I do think that if outdoors is your thing, I mean, most cases you can continue with that. But when it comes to, strength training, some just like feel that, you need a boatload of equipment, glorified home gym, or like I said, they're just used to the gym setting. So you don't need that. Yeah, okay. Maybe you're not, we're going to, hit the same degree of intensity and weights. It's, you got to come down a little bit of a notch. But as I said before, I just feel that, your goal should be here, potentially either maintaining as much as you can from the progress that you made up to pre-COVID, up to the start. And then also just using it as a means of combating stress and anxiety and the mental health, obviously, impact that this will have. So I think, you just got to kind of shift to a degree. But man, listen, between my personal clients that have made a shift. So normally they were using, more equipment at the gym or whatnot. They're still seeing progress because they're focusing on these little things that they can do daily, but they've had to shift to say, okay, I don't have everything that I can do. But I'm like, listen, guys, and I say this, if you're so-called prior to COVID, if one of your biggest so-called roadblocks or struggles to try to get into a fitness routine, or even maintaining a fitness routine that you once had, was lack of time. I mean, it's the number one so-called hurdle and struggle.
Everybody says that. I've said that. Everybody says that.
Everybody, I do too. Like, come on, I got 2 young kids. I mean, that's just it. I'm not always on, and nor should you be always on. It's just life. But I'm like, it's an unfortunate circumstance, health crisis that we are in. And God forbid, we are slowly seeing the light at the end of the tunnel and whatnot. But I'm like, what will happen when you get back to, your work where you're actually a regular routine, if you don't work from home naturally, changes and goes back to its norm? Well, then all these time constraints and hecticness is now flowing back. So I'm like, use this time, if there's a possible time, to try out new, body weighted exercises. Give them a shot. If you thought that they were pointless, like, give them a shot. And obviously maybe go buy, support local, but go buy some basic equipment that for a gym membership. If you think about, like, okay, if I was paying $70 on a gym membership, take 3 months out and then work, take that money that you saved and then just go buy maybe $150 worth of equipment, or maybe $100. And then you have that equipment for life. And then try different things. There's live workouts that others, not just myself, are doing. And then, of course, with the food is maybe try to get better at food. Try different themes, whatever like that. But utilize your time and set habits before really things get truly back to normal, because then it comes back to those classic challenges and whatnot.
Right. And, part of being home, although in some cases, and for some of us, it means we have more time on our hands. For others, it means more hands-on parenting and, a lot more domestic duties.
Yes.
And I know you're one of those people because you've got 2 kids at home and you're often parenting while you're doing these videos, which is really great to see, because the kids get involved and they're, at their own level trying to
Exactly.
do the exercises.
You're showing them.
Yeah. So how is it to be able to incorporate your kids in that? Is it possible to be able to get some sort of a workout while incorporating the family?
I think, well, this is what, we do. I mean, usually, because I do, usually 3 live workouts a week. Well, I'm got one now at 5 o'clock this afternoon, but usually my wife will be upstairs and following along. Of course, the kids are either on top of her. I mean, I got a 6 and 1-year-old. So the 6-year-old, really kind of taking this. And because so-called I'm going live, of course, she's all about that, thinking, oh, that's cool. So sometimes she's practicing on her own after. But for the most part, she's joining. And like I said, at the beginning, I'm trying to be like, okay, like, keep this nice and professional, but it kind of was like, people were like, I love it. Like, she's doing her thing and whatever like that. I think honestly, to get them involved, whether you do something live, and I do believe there's even some local people that is obviously doing much more family oriented exercises and whatnot. But I mean, of course, on YouTube, there's everything.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for making time to chat with us on Out of the Fog, and best of luck with the videos and the coaching and staying fit and well in this crazy time.
Thanks, Melissa. I really appreciate this opportunity.
Thanks so much. Thanks for watching Out of the Fog, and we'll see you next time.
Call the Rogers TV viewer response line, email us, or connect with us on social media. Call the Rogers TV viewer response line, email us, or connect with us on social media.
I want to report a kidnapping.
There are no open or closed cases that match your date or description.
I'm just someone who saw it.
So what?
Saw them take him.
Tell someone. See if they believe you.
I've got unfinished business.
Gina.
I'm gonna find the man who murdered my wife and kill him.
Revenge is what makes a man like you exceptional.
Oh, that's not good.
This is Rogers TV.
Hi, this is Shannon Reed of the Craft Council of Newfoundland and Labrador. As an organization with members across our island, we see firsthand how the impact of this health crisis is affecting entrepreneurial families. Uncertainty for your livelihoods, your businesses,